So I met April through one of the networking groups that I'm a part of, but she really jumped into my consciousness because she was at the time really focused on making this amazing jewelry. And she and I had a conversation about my grandmother who has passed, who was
Mm.
such an integral part of my life growing up, and even an integral part of my own spiritual development. And we had this deep, meaningful conversation. April probably doesn't even remember all of this, but I was sitting in my car when I was explaining to her about my beloved grandmother. And she made for me a bracelet and a necklace to celebrate my grandmother with a stone, tiger's eye stone. I'm giving you way too much information here. Tiger's eye stone, which was a stone that had some meaning between my grandmother and I. And so, going from there to becoming dear friends with April was not a huge stretch because she's so intuitive. She's done readings for me. She does the oracle cards, and now she has completely rethought about the way that she's doing her business, and she's opened up to being an oracle for all of us. And so April's going to talk to us today about this whole process of the visioning and the vision boards and the planning for the life ahead, and how maybe you've done vision boards before and they might have worked, or maybe not as well as you might have liked, or maybe you've never done vision boards before and you've always been looking forward to doing one. Her process is completely different, completely rethought out, and I'm really excited for April to share with you just what she is doing with regards to that. So, April, it's all up to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that great introduction, and thank you all for being here. I really, really appreciate it. I do have a screen that I can share because if anyone is like me, you need to see something while you're listening to it for it really to connect. So I'm able to do that.
Yes.
Where did it go? Okay. Um, oh, sure. Now I got to go find it. It was there a little bit ago. Isn't that always the way that it works, right? Um, so anyway, in the meantime, while I'm looking, I will on this. The when I had heard about vision boards for a long time, um, and they didn't quite appeal to me in the way that they would be described to me. And it was for me to hear that we'd be diving into um, looking for pictures and doing words and putting them on a board. And to me, it just felt like, and I'm a recovering scrapbooker, and I've made things all my life, and I felt like what I was doing or being asked to do was a like a collage. There it is, a craft collage, if you will. Um, um, all right, I'm. Do you see that screen that says envisioning?
Yes.
Oh, okay, good. So what I ended up feeling like that it was much more of a project, and I couldn't quite wrap my head around how doing this was going to manifest things. It didn't compute. And so when I think of the word envision and it's picturing oneself, that's what we're going to be talking about is how do you picture yourself as you move forward? And so to me, that was the problem with the typical board is that sometimes it was groups getting together and you just created this project, but it didn't have I know people have said that they're wonderful and they've used them and it's manifested. But again, for some of us that just don't quite grasp it or get it, that I needed to come up with something different. And interesting, when I was thinking about doing this vision board project and working with one group, I use Oracle cards and I recommend them in part of the process. And these were the three cards that came up for me was transformation, soul song, and expansion. And so we were about to transform, listening deep into our souls, hearing what the message is. And then when creating a vision board was really about expansion. And I just was blown away when I had looked at those cards and knew that I was onto something with what I wanted to do. And when the way I look at it is because it's such a visual process that the images on your vision board are only as strong as the emotions they trigger in you when you look at them. So again, if envisioning is about picturing yourself, the images need to really create some emotion and so that when you look at them, you know exactly what they mean to you, what they say. And so I came up with a different process that really starts with figuring out what your vision is, finding it and clarifying it. So when I'm presenting vision board work and doing it with women or men, when I am doing it, is that we start at the beginning. And every time I say that, the Do Re Mi song from Sound of Music comes in because that's a very good place to start. Is we start at the beginning to find and clarify your vision. Now, oftentimes we do this at the beginning of the year and we look at these various areas. And so particularly hearing about the gratitude that people were sharing this afternoon in looking at these various areas of our life, we look at our health and well-being. What is going well? um, what where how are we doing with it? Family and relationships, and it can be family, it can be friendships, it can be personal relationships, it can even broaden out to professional relationships, business, career, your calling, work, however you want to define that. Prosperity, money, finances, abundance, all are one great big category for us. Personal growth and personal development, and often spiritual development is included in this particular area. And then home and environment. And then what happens a lot of times when we start to look at these focus areas and set goals for them, we're setting our goals around something that's really tangible and concrete. So if you don't own a home, it might be in your vision board, well, I want a home. And what we start to think about is the home with the big kitchen, with the open concept, with this, with that. And so we start to get very concrete about what it is that we want. And before we go to that place, there is some reflection, some work that I think needs to be done. And so I look at reflection in this case. In each of those areas, where are you? What is going on for you? How are you doing? Then looking at where would you like to be? Because as Davia had questioned us, is are we all 100% where we want to be in every area of our life? And the answer is, since nobody really raised their hand and I went kind of like this, the answer is no. You are in some areas, but there's more that you are looking forward to growing. And how do you want to feel with that? And I think that's the big thing about this is that in being able to have meaning in your life and meaning about where you want to go is being in touch with how do you want to feel about it. So when you're looking for that house, it may not be looking at, the actual number of bedrooms and bathrooms the way they tell you on HGTV, and I'm a fan of a lot of those shows, but how do I want to feel in that house? How do I want to feel with what becomes mine? Is it going to be cozy and comforter and a sanctuary that I'm going to reside in, or is it something that's going to be just open and bring nature inside? So there are many ways that you may want to feel about it, and I really think that it's so important for us to spend the time. And so the first part of the vision board process that I've come up with is spending the time there, and that can take a little bit of time, and but it's really, really important. And I have created a workbook for the vision board program so that you have space to be able to reflect and write in all of that. And it gives you the beginning of the words that you end up needing to create the vision board. The other part that I think is different from a typical vision board process is that once you've done that, I ask you to call in guidance from spirit. As Davia mentioned that I am an oracle reader. I have a variety of decks that I absolutely love. And I will ask participants to go to their favorite deck that's calling to them, or it might be a couple of decks, and pull a card or two for each of those areas that you've identified as important that you think that you want to be able to focus on. It's really interesting for me when I see what happens is that some words, some phrases really come and are meaningful to you at that point. And I ask you to put those inside of your workbook as well, so that you are calling in spirit to also guide you. And since so many of you talked about the spiritual quest and having spirit, being grateful for what spirit brings in our life, this is a way to call spirit in, call source and universe, God, however you want to call, um, and move forward with your vision board. Once we've done that, it's now time to clarify which of these really are your priorities. Because unless you're a manifester who is an overachiever in everything, um, you need to clarify your priorities and select what is really somewhat of a manageable number. I wouldn't suggest more than six. There are people who do a board with two, three, or four, and that is fine, whatever works for you. But you want to be able to set the priorities, because as you've gone through this process, what you may find out is that in order to get to the house, and maybe that's a priority, but you're also an entrepreneur, you've got to get the business up and running first before you can get to the house. So you may have to not put the house on the board right away as you're looking at what you need to do to ultimately get there. And so it's really clarifying those priorities. And again, going back to envisioning, picture yourself. What does it feel like when you have those priorities clarified? What will it feel like? And it's funny. I use, really in touch with for those of you that know human design, and I'm a defined emotional solar plexus, and really want to be in touch with and am in touch with feelings all the time, so that I know that this is the right way for me to go. The idea here is to trigger the emotional connection to what you envision, and then that allows for your intention setting. So, by triggering the emotional connection to the areas that you've decided you want to work on, to what you envision, now I think you can really begin to go about doing your intention setting. And intention setting also gets you to the why of what you want for this, that it is about personal transparency for you. And there is no bad motive for anything. Um, we when we start to look at sometimes that funding, the foundation, the abundance and the prosperity in the finance area, is that some of our whys are just really practical. I want to be able to save enough so that I can send my kids to college. I want to be able to have enough money so that when I retire, that I am able to live a life that I really want to do. And these are all really important. If you understand your why, then you understand about the intention that you are going to set. So are you all, following me so far with this? Because you can see that the way I look at this, there's a lot of work to get done before you start looking at pictures. Okay. That here's where the real work is. And then we get into the pictures. And only at that particular point. When we get the intentions, and we won't be doing that today, but I'll just share with you, when you've gotten this far, the next step in the process is to create what I call being statements. These are another way of looking at it, might be affirmations, but these are the statements of what you want, what you envision. I am, and so I'll look at my board. I am honoring myself by caring for all parts of me, mind, body, and soul. Okay. Might be one of the statements. So all of this allows you to craft that being statement. And when those are in place, only then do I suggest now it's time to go find the images that are supporting the feeling and the being that you want. And so you can see that it's quite different than what typically has looked like as a vision board process. So before we do anything any further, I will stop the screen share for just a moment and entertain any questions that you might have. up to this point.
You talked about the workbook. Can you make that available to us?
Yes, so I do have the workbook. What I'm going to do at the when we come finish up is that I do have an offer for all of you to join the Vision Board Quest program that I have. And so the workbook is part of that process. The that's where it would come to you as being part of the actual process. And it's downloadable, and you can fill everything that we talk about in it as well. So I'll share the program with you afterwards, but that's where the workbook is.
Dr. Tanya, you want to share your question?
Yes, what are the sections, the areas of the life that you showed? What were those? Can you just go over those again real quick?
Sure. So I'll look at them when I'm doing. So health and well-being is one of them. Let me come back and just share that. Share. Okay. There we are. Well-being is one of them. So any aspect of health, family, and relationships as a second grouping. The third is around work, profession, business, career, your calling, however you want to call that, or any number of those. The fourth is the finances, prosperity, money, abundance. Is personal growth and development. And the final one was home or environment. And those are really very broad categories. And what I found is that as you begin to look at them and think about where you are now and where you want to be, that it starts to get a little bit more focused, okay, into it. So, for example, when I looked at the relationships arena, when I did mine, I broke it into two, and one was around personal relationships, and although it was personal relationships, it was also this personal growth. And I'll share the vulnerability with you here as an example, is that for so many years, I just couldn't understand why people liked me. I just couldn't get it. All right. And there was a lot of work that was done over the last couple of years to begin to understand that, so that what I came up with is a statement about being worthy and deserving of being loved by others, and knowing that that was an area that I needed to work on. The other one became professional relationships, about attracting the right people to help support my dreams. So they were very, very different. And understanding that the idea of attraction, and particularly being this projector of waiting for recognition and invitation and figuring out how do you attract during that time, was really a conundrum. So both of those were huge, huge issues that I took out of relationships and made into two different categories. So you end up finding about where it is that you want to focus. You may start by looking at all six. I've had women that decided they only wanted to look at three. And as they looked at those three, determined, you know what, I need to add a fourth. And so there's no right or wrong way, but these are the general categories that we have in our lives that we want to set intentions around. So thank you for that. Any other questions? Okay, so what we're going to do is, in Ladies Power and Lunch, we'll go into some breakouts, and Dr. Devia will get us there. So in the conversation you have with the women, and Adam, if he's in your group, is to identify a focus area, kind of talk about where you are, how are you doing here, where would you like to be, and how do you want to feel? So to begin to that thought process as you start to think about envisioning for 2023? What's a focus area you think you want to address? How are you doing there? Where would you like to be, and how do you want to feel? And then we'll come back, just chat about that a little bit, and then I'll talk about what might be next for you. So, Davia, it's up to you. Are we splitting up now?
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put us in, let's see. If I do 4 breakout rooms, then we'll be mostly groups of 4 and one group will have 3. Okay. Here we go. Can you accept, please, our invitation to go into your breakout room?
I'll go for. I could go, I guess.
Okay.
For 2023, my focus area is to make my company more visible.
Okay.
In the past, I've had a lot of referral and repeat business. Now I'm trying to widen the net a little bit. So that's really my focus area for 2023.
Okay. And how are you doing there?
I'm just at the very beginning. I'm actually talking to 2 different firms to help me with that and evaluating which direction I'm going to go. So
Okay.
one of the things that I'm doing is trying to see which feels like a better fit,
Okay.
because I feel like that's when somebody's helping you with messaging, it's not just, I don't know, hard facts. I think there's stuff, the stuff between the lines as to who feels like a better fit.
Mm-hmm. Right. And where is it you would like to be with your business?
I would like to feel like my business has more of a voice. Right now, it's very quiet.
Mhm.
I'm not really doing much on social media or anything. So I'm hoping to find the business's voice and be a little more out there spreading the word.
And when all of this happens, how is it you want to feel or expect you will feel?
That's a very good question.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
We
Yeah,
often
I
don't
mean,
talk about how we want to feel. We just get focused on the doing
right,
of the work as opposed to the being part of it.
right. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
hoping that I'll just feel, assuming that it goes the way I'd like it to, I'll just feel confident and comfortable
Okay.
with what's been created.
Great.
Excuse
Good.
me, April.
Yes.
Can you tell me again the questions that we're supposed to be considering?
So assess where you are now. How are you doing? Where would you like to be? And how do you want to feel when you're
Okay,
there?
so where are you now?
Where would you like to be?
Where would you like to be?
And how do you want to feel when you get there?
How do you want to feel when you get there? Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. So, Adam, you're up.
So how am I now? Actually, I'm kind of coming out of a period of cocooning is really what it feels like for me.
Okay.
I was cocooning for a little while and I didn't realize I was cocooning, but I'm now sort of jumping back into trying to connect to social media. I just started doing a full moon meditation group. I posted in the comments I'm starting hot seats. The first one of is going to be tonight. I'm doing holiday woes, people struggling with issues around the holidays, whether it's loneliness or conflict with families or something like that. And I'm going to be doing dual coaching things rather than just me coaching someone, two people, and us offering different perspectives. So I'm really excited about that because I do better when I partner with someone for the accountability. So I feel like I'm going more in the direction I want to go to. The direction I want to go to is really actually a lot of what Dorinda was saying is having a louder presence, being a stronger voice, giving more of what I have to offer, and being more present so that I can receive people to be able to support them in the way that I believe that I'm best skilled. And for me, the feeling that I'm hoping it will give me is the ability to really offer to my family the support that they need and want, especially financially, like really being able to offer them more, being able to pay for things more easily, not really have to budget and really be so severe about where my resources are going, and just feeling more excited about my day to day because that's being taken care of.
Oh, okay. Okay. So would you be looking at, so I'm hearing it's been about the focus area you're talking about is your business.
Yeah.
Okay. So both of you, as your priority, your number one priority was business. Is there any other area in your life that you also think that you would like to spend some time focusing on that might help you with the business, or just as a different area altogether? Just because we know that all work and no play makes for a dull, isn't that what the adage goes by? But
For
what
me,
else?
I'm so used to using money to play that when I have more resources, that's what I'm trying to create it for. So I need to focus on the business so I can afford to play the way that I like to.
Okay. Okay. Do you want to share anything, or are you just going to be listening?
Oh, I'm okay with sharing.
Okay. Mhm.
I'm okay with sharing to contribute to the completeness of the container. Absolutely.
Then you're up.
Um, okay.
So a focus area.
I feel like I'm gonna stick with Dorinda and Adam and say my focus area is gonna have to be business because of wanting to transition a bit more from being so focused on patient care and to be able to spend more time focusing on Ladies Power Lunch. So that's where that comes from.
Okay. And how are you doing?
Well, I feel as though I'm doing well. And then there's also like a ceiling.
Okay.
It's not so easy to explain. Like I get to a point where I can do so much as far as reducing my patient load goes, but I can't get beyond that.
Okay.
It's like there's a little ceiling there.
Okay.
How much are you reaching out to the rest of us for support in building the Ladies Power Lunch? Or are you still trying to do it largely on your own?
Well, we do have the Ladies Power Lunch affiliates. So uh you know they're another group subgroup within the Ladies Power Lunch who support the things that we do and share and kind of help to grow. But I don't suppose that I have really this made the same sort of I haven't really had these same conversations that we have in that group inside of the Ladies Power Lunch group. Yeah.
So where would you like to be in with these two very different kinds of business? Where would you like to
Yeah.
be? Where's your dream?
I it's a wonderful question because my dream would really involved me never seeing another patient ever again.
Okay. Okay.
And probably still having our practice, but probably being supported by more affiliate doctors so that I don't have to be doing the day-to-day patient care part of it.
Okay.
Yeah,
And how do you expect that you would feel when that transition happens?
really. Just
Yeah.
like a weight is lifted from me. I've been in healthcare for 25 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know I don't look like it, but I have been.
She's
So,
so brilliant. She was a
You were
baby
right
when she
about that.
started, you know?
I,
yeah.
I was just born and boom, patient care.
And knowing you the way I do, I kind of believe that, with this brilliant mind of yours. So you can see that, we know where we want to focus. And by doing I mean, this was just a brief reflection, but in the process, being able to spend some time to really detail what is it that's going well for you? What are the areas that you may need some help with? So you're doing that real assessment in whatever area or multiple areas that you choose, knowing where you want to be, and how you want to feel. And again, we don't ask ourselves that question to be able to allow us to sit back and kind of reflect. And this is also where I think it becomes really helpful when we pull an oracle card, and ask spirit, what is the message that you want me to know about this area, whether it's my business, this part of it. And pulling one, or you might even pull two or three cards to get a bigger story or a deeper story about it. And then I encourage people to write down those phrases or words, because I know that when I looked at the books, the guidebooks, that every time I pull the card and look at it, something else jumps out at me. It's not always the same thing. And so by doing that, now you've got words that you can begin, to work from, to create the next step, which is the being statements, and then from there be able to do the books, to do the boards.
I know we're
Um,
closing out super, super fast, but April, I'd love to hear at least where you want to be next year.
where I want to be next year, I want to be with a, um, fulfilling practice where I am actually, doing the human design readings and coaching a handful of women, and moving them to becoming their most authentic and truest self, which is very different because I've transitioned to that this year from doing the jewelry and really spending most focus on that. So thank you for asking.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a good like stopping point for our breakout group. Perfect perspective. I think that was perfect.
Great.
Perfect.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you guys.
And I'm going to tell you, Marilyn, real quick, I'll put the link for my Facebook group in the chat so you can get there. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry.
Awesome, everybody. I hope who got value from their breakout groups. I see all hands. Awesome, awesome. So April, I invite you to continue. Just let's have you give us our final work to do.
So I want to share, in our group, what was interesting is when asked, how do you want to feel? Um, it was, well, that's a good question. And then just trying to figure out how it is that I want to feel. Because we're so busy doing that we forget to stop and just be. And I think that goes back to something that Wendy said in the introduction. I think it was Wendy about, busyness. I'm done with busyness, as well. And how do we allow that flow in the being? And we need to spend the time, looking at that before you can really start putting where it is that you want to go with it. Anybody have any thoughts that they want to share before I, tell you what's next?
So Rosemary has her hand raised.
Great.
Rosemary, can you unmute and share your question?
I just was raising my hand earlier when you said, did anybody get any benefit from it? I'm sorry, I haven't been able to lower it. Here I go, lower hand.
Okay.
Thank you.
Did you
Oh,
have any questions though, or any comments,
N-
anything that stood out for you?
Well, I did tell the ladies in the breakout room that I found it very refreshing. I don't hear quite often the vision board taking into account the actual emotional reactions that we will have once we envision the results of what we're striving for. A lot of people don't talk about that when they do the vision board, so I really love that.
thank you. Yeah, and that's what I have found with the women who have been in the group, that they all felt the same thing. And when we did the sessions, that a couple of times it was, quite emotional, as people were talking about it, because they really got to the heart of what they wanted and the reason that they wanted it. And knowing that there is no bad motive at all. It's just being transparent about what your motive is, because that's going to guide which way you're going to go, with it. So let me then tell you what is next. I will come back here, and I just want to share again. You can see I'm not an expert at all of this yet. I still have to do a lot of looking and looking for assistance from folks. So I do have a Vision Board Quest program, and I wanted to offer that to Ladies Power Lunch members and to those of you that were here. And I call it Tell the Story That You Want to Live. It is a program that is a small group. I only look for about 6 people to be in the group because of what I know happens during these sessions. They are about an hour and a half long. If we end earlier, that's great. But I do ask you to be at least have an hour and a half time to be able to share, listen, and then give feedback to one another. I offer one individual session of an hour. Usually it's about the time people have gotten through this part and we get to writing the being statements, where people get stuck in the language and writing what they want. And so I schedule an hour one-on-one session to be able to work through that with you as well. Now, I propose a different type of another way that it's different is that I actually propose doing a digital vision board using Canva. So for those who come in who don't know Canva, we will have a tutorial session so that you can see how to work with it. There is a workbook that comes with the program for you that you can download and fill. And I created a template that is customizable so that you just have to plop in your pictures and play with it to make it look like the way you want it to look with it. And I am offering it so that you can have a vision board ready for 2023. I'm offering it beginning the 28th, and I realize it's around the holiday time. So instead of offering it on a weekly basis, build a week every other week so that you would finish it by the end of this calendar year and you're ready to go. Booking your individual sessions before Christmas. And so your boards would be created for the 28th, where then you will actually be able to present your board. And by doing so, you're actually activating the board because you are saying your being statements aloud and getting support from the others that are in the group for making it actually happen. So the regular investment in this is $247, but I'm offering it as my pre-Black Friday weekend offer at 30% off at $174. So if you are interested, I will post more about it in the group after our session is done. But you can go to my website at aprilgoffbrown.com and you can register through that. And I would love to be able to work with those of you that are interested in really crafting a vision board that really has meaning and intention and has powerful emotion behind it. The good thing about doing it through Canva is then you can get it sent to you as a poster. And there's a bunch of different sizes that you can choose. So I actually printed mine out as a 22 by 28 poster, and it is hanging on my wall, and I see it every single day. While I'm sitting here, I can keep looking up at it because it's in the vision of me when I'm working at my desk, and have that for you. It's not going to fall apart like the paper ones do because the glue dries. It's just going to be this wonderful, beautiful presentation. And in the center of your vision board will be a statement of similar to, I partner with spirit in all that I do. Or I know that the universe has my back. Whatever it is, you're looking at, not only looking at this board of what you want, but that you're understanding and appreciating that there is a greater force behind you to make sure that you can manifest what it is that you want to manifest. And so that is the offer that I have for you this afternoon. And so with that, I'm going to stop share and go back to a big screen, and happy to answer any questions or give you any other information.